To call this meeting officially to order, and a friendly reminder that this meeting is recorded. So students, when you give your presentation, make sure you're talking into the microphone and that you can kind of hear yourself talk. It'll get in your head a little bit, but make sure you do that so that it's picked up on the recording so everybody that watches at home can hear this as well. And just a note for everybody in the community that you'll be able to see this at a later date when we get it posted up on the website. All right, Mr. Patrick, roll call.
Thank you, Chairman Skornagoski. Gordon Johnson.
Here.
Kim Skornagoski.
Here.
Bill Bronson.
Here.
Mark Finicum.
Here.
Marley Senchild.
Here.
Amy Thompson.
Here.
Paige Tarosky.
Here.
You have a full board present, Madam Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, Gage, do you want to lead us? Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, well done.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Gordon.
I would move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there any comments or questions from my fellow trustees or our community? All right, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Finicum. I'm not used to
I
this.
would move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Is there any comments or questions from my fellow trustees or from our community? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, we have a consent agenda. All right, and the first item on our agenda is a character strong presentation from Riverview Elementary. Ms. Marion Waring, thank you for introducing our students.
Good evening, Vice Chair Skornagoski, members of the board, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the community. It is a full house tonight, and I'm so pleased to be here to introduce Principal Nicole Heinzelman and her students from Riverview Elementary to share with us about Character Strong this month.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity for our students. These are our leadership students at Riverview Elementary who have taken the time to put together a presentation for you about the character strong trait of cooperation. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Falk, Mr. Jewell, and Ms. Gibson, our school counselor, who have been leading up or have been heading up leadership. So with that, I am going to turn it over to these amazing students to share with you.
Cooperation by Riverview Leadership Team.
Cooperation is working together to reach shared goals.
What is cooperation? Cooperation is the process of working together to the same end result. Cooperation is working together and including everyone's ideas. If everyone shows cooperation, we can make our school and community a better and safer place.
How can we show cooperation?
One way that we can show cooperation is by making offers, not commands.
Another way is listening to others.
We can also show cooperation during school by including others in the game you are playing.
It's on this side too. That's easier.
We use cooperation to make our school and community a better place. If no one uses cooperation, we will not be able to function as a community, society. When we use cooperation, we make sure no one is left out and we are all connected. We use cooperation for everyone to feel the same.
Riverview's leadership. In Character Strong this month, 5th and 6th grade learned leadership skills.
One way we are learning to be better leaders is serving others and not bossing others around.
This year and last year, we did a candy cane fundraisers and donated the money to good causes.
This year we raised $794, which came out to be $680 after expenses.
We split the donated money between Toby's house and the Cameron Center, which houses homeless families.
We also do a fundraiser for the Great Falls Lions Special Olympics team.
How do we use Character Strong? Every day on the morning announcements, we talk about Character Strong. On Tuesdays, we share a quote from a celebrity or known person about that month's character trait. Another way we show cooperation is our teachers around the school have a choice to teach a lesson about the monthly trait.
Ways Riverview shows cooperation. People in leadership position have things called Eagle Buddies. In Eagle Buddies, we talk to the teachers and make plans to do fun things with the kids in their class. We do Eagle Buddies every other week for 15 minutes. Ways people in the school that are not in leadership show cooperation is by helping people around the school. Another way Riverview shows cooperation is when many people are working together on a group project.
Conflict resolution. This month, 2nd and 4th grade are focusing on conflict resolution. The picture on the right is a bulletin board with the tree of choices from Character Strong. Leadership helped by filling out the leaves on the top with healthy choices that you can use when you're in a conflict. These are all part of 3 categories: talk it out, walk it out, or breathe it out. If you have a fight with someone, the right option would be to talk it out and forgive them. Thank you for your time.
Bravo.
Well done.
Fantastic presentation.
Well done. You guys put a lot of work into that. Well done. Great job. Good job. Hopefully I didn't embarrass you.
Cooperation. I'm all ears.
Well done. Good job.
Good work. Thank
Great
you.
job.
Good work.
Put a lot of work into that. Well done.
Good job.
Great job.
Nice work. Yeah. Good job. Nice work. Good job.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, students. Well done. That was a presentation in front of a lot of people, and they did such a great job. Thank you so much, parents, for bringing them here as well. All right, Lisa Sapp with the Malmstrom Communication. Don't leave that.
Okay. Well, good evening, Chairman Johnson, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the board, and community guests. Following the students is always tough because they always do such a fantastic job. So I just wanted to touch base on a couple of events that, well, one happened last week and then the other one's happening in a couple of weeks. So on last Thursday, CMR and Malmstrom Airmen hosted their 3rd annual Operation Warm Heart basketball game. It was a great turnout this year. Big kudos to Miss Becky Nelson from the district for helping us push that out into the community. So Operation Warm Heart is run by the first sergeants, and they help to raise donations to help support military families in need, airmen E4 and below during tough times and during the holidays specifically. So two games were hosted during the basketball showcase. This year, the girls match CMR won, Rustlers 34 to Malmstrom 22. And then the boys match was really riveting. We went into double overtime. And then the Rustlers lost 88 to Malmstrom 92. So what I will tell you is we had leadership attending that game. That was pretty awesome to watch. I had no idea what happens when basketball goes into double overtime. Now I learned some things, but we are going to work on a traveling trophy for both the boys and the girls. So when we continue to do this down the line, we will have something to go back and forth. Um, so we appreciate Great Falls Public Schools and CMR specifically for helping us raise awareness for Operation Warm Heart. They were able to raise almost $800 for their 50-50 split the pot raffle and their concessions. So great turnout despite all of the fun things going on in the community that week. So Purple Update for Great Falls Public Schools is sent for April 10th, and then to compound off of the Character Strong for Riverview Elementary this year, they are the district's Purple Star School recipients. So they will have their awards ceremony on April 10th, and I think it's at 9. We are expecting, hopefully, maybe the state superintendent to join us that day. But we will be honoring Riverview for their hard work in supporting and embedding supports for military students at their school. Miss Tara Murillo from Chief Joe, she's the librarian over there, and Montana Johnson, a core school counselor who was at Loy for several years. And then Mark Yeager, CTE Pathways Advisor for the school district. So again, Miss Becky Nelson coordinated all of this for us, and we appreciate her efforts. And then for the month of April, there will be several events going on throughout the district at several of our schools to celebrate Purple Up. Not a comprehensive list. There's too many. I would be up here for quite a while. But Chief Joe is hitting it hard with a Spirit Week, PT tests, some canine demos, and static displays. Loy is doing a Purple Up breakfast, a Purple Day, Camo Day, and an obstacle course later on this month. I know Meadowlark and Sunnyside, I think, we're working with Montana Air National Guard to support those schools. And then there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And then on base on April 11th, they're doing a base proclamation for Month of the Military Child. And then our Purple Up Carnival is in that evening. So if you want any more information on those events, please reach out. But pending your questions, that's all I have for the board. All right. Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
All right, Superintendent's report. Ms. Hoyer.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Swernagoski, members of the board, members of our community. Tonight is a fun night because this month we get to celebrate Bigfoot. I'm a huge Bigfoot fan, but what we're talking about tonight is the three-peat state champion archery group, which is a combination of students from CMR, Great Falls High, and Paris Gibson. And they are here with Dugan Coburn because they have some things they want to talk about and show off. And I found the graphic Bigfoot just for you guys. It's only weird if you don't believe in him. So Dugan and I are believers.
All right, thank you. Everybody settled? Okay. No? The board, thank you so much for giving us your time being here tonight to be recognized by you for these kids' achievement. This is our Bigfoot Archery Club. This is our third year in a row of winning the state Bullseye Championship. So we're three-peaters, which is pretty cool for our group. We're going to be going to nationals next month. We set a pretty high goal. We set a new record for our team at the state meet, and we shot a 3,134 out of a possible 3,600. Our goal for nationals is to get 3,200 and hopefully place in the top 10 in the nation at archery this year in Salt Lake. I'd like to recognize Andrew Dodge, who placed first place in bullseye for our team. I'd also like Des. Where's Des? Are you here tonight? Des Ronikowski. He came in third for our high school. Dazzlin Campbell, on my other shoulder right here, came in first in bullseye for high school girls in the state. So we had 3 out of the 4 first spots in the state. We had 10 out of the top 20 archers on our team for the state this year. These kids work hard. They come in, they sacrifice, they get better. Their fingers hurt. It's really a fun thing to do. These kids work. They make it worth doing all these things that we do. So if you guys are all smiling, I'd like you just to go around and go over and acknowledge the board, please, and shake their hands and say thanks. Oh.
Good luck in Salt Lake.
Everybody stop. Just say, everybody stop. My wife wants me to take a picture. Everybody turn. Kids, look at me. Board, look at me. My wife just texted me, said, take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Thank you.
Good luck in Salt Lake. Nice job. Good work. Good work. Good work. Yep. Good job. Nice job. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good luck in Salt Lake.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
I joked a little bit earlier that Dugan's going to need a bigger office for all of the banners that he's hanging in his office for state championships. So, congratulations, coach, and congratulations to our archers. Good luck at nationals. We look forward to great results coming back to Great Falls Public Schools. All right. Well, I debated back and forth about putting this slide up there and decided that that we should really talk about updates coming from Washington, D.C. because there has been so much in the news, some of it accurate, some of it not accurate, social media, but really about what we're hearing from Washington, D.C. and the response from the Office of Public Instruction and Superintendent Susie Hedlund, who will be here for Purple Up Day if plans go right, that she's planning on it right now. We have received several emails from her and where she gave us the following information. So I took the excerpts directly from her emails. That our elementary, our schools fall under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We know that the title formula is still intact for our low-income students. That the discretionary grant programs and the staffing were not impacted. The special ed services and voc rehab programs have remained fully intact. Updates are timely from the Department of Ed. In fact, she said they're very timely in the last couple of weeks, and that the impact has been minimal to the OPI, and there are not any current plans for staff reductions. So they're ready to take the additional responsibilities. They're making sure that they are staffed appropriately, so when money starts coming directly to the states, they'll be able to get them to us in a very timely manner. This is being closely monitored, of course, by us here. Myself, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Patrick are paying close attention to this. MTSBA is monitoring it, sending us regular updates. School administrators in Montana are also monitoring it, as is MASBO. And so we are cautiously hopeful because we know things can change on a dime. But as of right now, this is the best information we have, that we should not see any huge impacts right now to the main populations we were worried about, our low-income students and our students served by IDEA. Talking about updates legislatively, here are some updates from Helena that are sticking pretty close to home. The STARS Act was transmitted to the Senate. A lot of people ask what STARS means, and I knew generically, but I looked it up specifically. So it's Student and Teacher Advancement for Results and Success. It's a mouthful. It right now is in the Senate Education and Cultural Resources. I believe that there was another hearing on it today, and so the STARS continues to move forward. House Bill 268, this revises literacy targeted intervention. It adds numeracy to literacy. This is by Melissa Nikolakakis out of the Centerville area. She also represents us here in Great Falls. Changes the screening to no sooner than 5 months prior to enrolling or upon enrollment of a child who will be 4 years old. So I know that Executive Director Mainwaring, who worked really close to the screening, that we had a tight window when we had to screen before. This might help a little bit with that. It also changes the Jumpstart admission to a maximum of 5 on-target children for every 5, or on target child for every 5 eligible children who are struggling with literacy or numeracy. So it adjusts those up from a 3-to-1 ratio. We are tracking some late submissions. They can still, new laws can still be submitted until April 4th. Is kind of a soft transmittal time, is in my understanding. House Bill 551 is one we're watching. It eliminates reduced priced co-payments for school lunch and breakfast. So in the state of Montana, if you're free or reduced children still pay a small fee for their breakfast and lunch. If this goes through, they would not pay anything. So once you qualify for free or reduced, if this goes through, you're free. It is in the House Education Committee. It needs to get through appropriations, then back to the floor and be heard before the 4th and pass before it can be transmitted to the Senate. So it's still, as of today anyway, was still alive, is my understanding. House Bill 564 is the same. It's one of those ones we're trying to push through before April 4th. It increases access to early literacy, targeted intervention programs. So it was originally introduced on the 21st of February. Spent a little time in the House Education Committee, but this supports school districts by expanding that early literacy classroom like the one we have. But it removes the tax or the burden for us, in that it gives us $1,000 for every A and B to allow us to get their programming off the ground. So we'll see if that one gets through. The next slide is a little bit of redundancy, but if you don't have it on your calendar, please do. Lisa spoke to it very, very well, but it's April 10th, and that's Purple Up Day, where we will be celebrating our military children. And in doing so, celebrating the schools and the individuals who go out of their way to really support kids and families. So we have Tara Murillo, who is the Chief Joseph Elementary Librarian. Montana Johnson, he's at Core Elementary. This year as the counselor. He used to be at Loy. And then, of course, Mark Yeager, who is our Career Pathways Advisor. 2 things strike me about Purple Up Day, and many of you know this, but for those of you who don't, they pick the color purple because they combine all of the colors of our military branches. But the dandelion is also their flower of recognition, because dandelions take root and they flourish practically everywhere that the wind blows them. So we look forward to celebrating our military families and children on that day. And speaking of representing Great Falls Public Schools, my favorite night of the year, and I think it's the same for the rest of Cabinet, we had our 53rd annual Bosses Night. And this was where Great Falls Public Schools came together to recognize our 78 community partners who offer 110 job skills opportunities to secondary life skills students and competitive employment students through IDEA. Bosses Night is led by the amazing teachers in the Voc resource realm. That's Kathy Warner and Mary Beth Tolan, as well as secondary life skills teachers Julie Murray, paraprofessional Kelly Burton, and job coach Lacey Dawson. And up there are the name of the award winners for this year. So the first award, the Patty Cooper Award. Patty Cooper was a special education resource room teacher at CMR during the 1980s. She was a strong supporter of vocational education, and her teaching style focused on individual student improvement. She encouraged students that participated in the vocational program to work hard to improve their employability skills and their academic skills. Upon her passing, a memorial was established in Patty's name to honor individual students that have demonstrated marked improvement in their employability skills. This year, we celebrated Landon Meek and Zach Benton from CMR, Sabrina Tartaglia and Cody Dostal from Great Falls High, and Braden Kopke from Paris for the Patty Cooper. The next award was Sid Naseby. And Sid Naseby worked up here at the district office building as our chief engineer in the early 1970s until he retired. Sid enthusiastically took our vocational students under his supervision to teach them the meaning of being a good employee and the job skills that were needed to be a custodian. Upon his death, a memorial was established to honor individual students that demonstrated the exemplary employee skills that Sid worked so hard to impress upon those students that he supervised and through his supervision that he taught. This year, Sid Naseby Memorial Award winners were Quinn Reddick and J.C. Brooks from CMR, and Crystal Reed and Calvin Worrell from Great Falls High, and then Michael Norman from CMR. Oh, I think that was supposed to be Paris. I'm sorry. Michael Norman from Paris. Patty McHenry. Patty McHenry Award is established for Patty McHenry, who worked as a paraprofessional for Great Falls Public Schools for about 17 years. She worked in our self-contained classrooms at Great Falls High, CMR, and Paris Gibson Education Center. The last 10 years that she worked for us, she worked in the secondary life skills classroom. She was a huge supporter of the vocational program and understood the importance of a strong work ethic. She demonstrated this by being an example to her students. In all the years that she was employed, she was a dependable employee, attending work on a regular basis and was half an hour early every day. She loved her students and she encouraged success at all levels and abilities. So the Patty McHenry Memorial Award was for the most dependable employee, and there's only one, and that went to Brian O'Born from Secondary Life Skills. We also wanted to celebrate our employers. This year's Employer of the Year was the Great Falls Public School Print Center, who seems like they turn on a dime every time there's a student that needs extra service or someone who comes in and needs job skills. They come on in and they're right there for them. But then our most valuable community partner this year was the Great Falls Transit, and they were very, very excited to receive their award. They do outstanding work. So a thank you to them and a thank you to the 78 community members who support our students as they're taking their next steps. Speaking of community partners, it has been busy out in our community. So we have 3 special thank yous that we want to give shout outs to. The first one is to Slutton. Slutton has been taking our students on tours of the new Montana State School of Nursing. That's the Mark and Robin Jones College of Nursing that is being built. So they took the high school house students, and then I think this week they're taking the Build Montana students. So they're doing lots of tours on that job site so our students can see that new facility in process. The Montana Army National Guard made a connection with Mark Yeager after I did the weekend out there with them, looking at their facilities and all their assets. And they are going to be taking the Build Montana students on a tour as well, so they can see the new facility that's out there, which is really exciting. And then DA Davidson just last Friday did Business in a Day, where our business students, you can see them right there in that bottom picture, those business students met up with individual professionals from DA Davidson. They did tours, and then they were able to job shadow them. And for many of our students, it ends up in more of a long-term job shadow or even a full-time position with DA Davidson. So 3 partners that we're just very thankful for these last couple weeks. If you haven't heard, the next time we get together and Lydia is here, be sure that you thank or congratulate her, not thank her, but congratulate her. Miss Lydia is the newest student representative to the Montana Board of Public Education. When I was talking to her advisor, Ryan Anderson, who is up there, Ryan said he thought it had been 15 or 16 years since Great Falls had had a student rep. And so lots of smiles you can see from Ryan all the way around, but we're very proud of her. She was selected by the Montana Association of Student Council's Executive Board, and she will serve a 2-year term. So congratulations to Miss Lydia. And we're hiring. If any of you would like to, if you think you're retired, we could use you. As of Friday, the 18th, we are in the 3rd round of the hiring season. We had 12 elementary positions open, 25 secondary positions open. when I talked to HR Director Decons, what he said is we're setting really good because this is exactly where we were in August as far as numbers go. So feeling pretty good heading into the spring, and looking forward to some bright new faces joining our ranks next fall. And the final thing is the data for the day. So throughout the fall and the winter, I have given you updates as to the number of students who are participating in our sports. And Cabinet said this last Tuesday, wow, wouldn't it be great to take a look at all the sports in a graph? Pretty sure it was this guy right here. And let's take a look at it, it as that type of visual. So I had Mr. Henneberg pull all the information for me. Over the course of the year, we've had 1,431 student athlete opportunities. It's a lot. Now, there is some natural attrition that'll happen this spring, so that number may go down a little as students either elect not to complete their sports season or get injured and can't. But this spring, what it's looking like is we have 48 softball players, we have 89 tennis players, and we have 300 track and field players. So just so you know, we have 58 high school coaches that we use our collective bargaining to hire at each high school. So that's 116 total that work with these 1,431 student athlete opportunities. There are some multiple sport athletes, so you might see that someone who was represented in volleyball is also represented in track and field. So we're counting them in both cases. But as a point of oh, sorry, that's my next information. But our total number is almost, if we took a look at what does that 1431 represent, it's almost 100 individuals greater than the whole enrollment at Great Falls High School. So if you start putting it in that scope, it's a lot of opportunities for students to be involved. And it's nice to see the track and field. I just don't know if we have enough buses to carry all 300 of our track and field students, but you know what? We're going to make it work. So it's pretty exciting. Before I close, just as a point of notification, we are working very closely with our Board of Public Health and our school nurses to be sure that we are prepared in the event that we do have a measles case in our community. I know that's also been something that's been on a lot of people's minds. And as spring break with our colleges is coming up, and people are starting to travel more because the weather is warmer outside of Montana. We don't have any cases in Montana. We just want to be sure we're prepared. The goal behind that is if we prepare and put all the work in up front, then we'll never have to utilize it. But we also want to be sure we can support students and classrooms and families and schools in the event it does happen. So I'll continue to update you as we move through that process. And with that, I am done with my presentation. If you have any questions for me, Vice Chair Skornagoski.
Wonderful. Is there any questions from my fellow trustees? Trustee Finicum.
Are we going to have an opportunity to congratulate Lydia Comstock at the next meeting?
Yes, we will.
That's
We absolutely will.
And I guess just to clarify, the 1,431 student athletes, I'm assuming that's just high school.
That
It
is
doesn't
just the high
include
school.
middle
Those are just the opportunities taken by high school students. Yes. So
potentially double it.
potentially double it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I have no written requests for audience communication. I'm going to assume that there's no one that would like to take advantage of that opportunity. We'll move on to action items, the financial report and check register for February 2025. Mr. Patrick.
Thanks, Madam Chair. What you have before you is the standard monthly information on the budgeted funds, including the food service fund for February of 2025. And for the audience, this includes the budget, the month to date that's spent, the year to date that's spent, balance and percent remaining on both revenues and expenditures. And we are where we need to be in February, so my recommendation is to approve it as presented.
Wonderful. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair. Sorry.
Yes, Trustee Durosky.
I move that we accept the monthly financial report and approve the register of payments for February 2025 as presented.
Second.
Wonderful. It's been moved and seconded to accept the monthly financial report as presented. Is there any questions or comments from my fellow trustees, from our community? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Wonderful. All right, up next, we have the Board Budget Committee recommendation regarding elementary and or high school levy, including the ballot resolution. Trustee Finicum / Mr. Patrick.
Thank you. Good. Do you want me to just go through the whole thing?
Sure.
Perfect. So the budget committee, we have held town hall meetings March 6th and March 18th. Myself, Trustee Bronson, Trustee Tarosky, there's members of our budget committee. We've met several times throughout the year to crunch over the financial data and develop the community budget process and our agendas with the help of Mr. Patrick and his team. The trustees may pass a resolution stating exact levy amounts not less than 30 days before the election for the clerk to certify the ballot. The resolution must include the duration limit, if any, on the levy. If the levy election is approved via a majority vote of the board, it would be scheduled to be held on May 6th, 2025, in conjunction with the annual trustee election. The cost of the election is $65,000 if only item on the ballot is the school election. The annual trustee election for 25-26 school year will be via a mail ballot conducted by the Cascade County Elections Department. Our budget committee has deliberated after hearing the administrative options and the public comment on the 18th of March 2025. The budget committee recommendation to the full board is to forego asking for an additional support of district programs via a levy for the 25-26 school year. So the committee recommends to the board that we do not run a levy for this election cycle. Questions?
I'll open the floor for a motion and then we can have comments or questions.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would propose that or move that the board is not to request a levy for the 2025-26 fiscal year.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to not request a levy for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Now I'd like to open the floor for any comments or questions, first from my fellow trustees. Trustee Finicum.
Thank you. I know with Helena in full session right now, there is a lot of moving pieces, as Superintendent Hoyer has said. Barring anything catastrophic coming out of Helena, we feel pretty strong about how our next fiscal year will go, particularly through the financial prowess that our district cabinet gives us. So we certainly are appreciative of them.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Trustee Bronson.
Question for Mr. Patrick. I know that after the Budget Committee meeting where we made our recommendation, there was some conversation about perhaps tweaking the recommendation. And my question to you, sir, is based on the way the motion is phrased, does that prevent us from going for a levy at a different point in time? Should the legislature, as I think we've all said, go south on us, which there's no indication they will, but based on the way the motion is worded, does that prevent us from readdressing this particular question?
Yeah, my recommendation would be that we'd forego running a levy with them in conjunction with the May 6th election date. As Mr. Bronson alluded to it, there's four major components that have to be considered when the board decides to run a levy or not. Those include a big part of the legislature, the STARS bill, the 3% inflation have not been decided yet. And then negotiations is in process. And however that finishes up, if those don't combine themselves very well, let's say things went completely south in the legislature and we didn't get 3% or the STARS bill didn't pass, I think it'd be behoove the board to meet again um, and discuss whether or not to run a levy. We have until August 1st to decide a levy amount and put that on the ballot. And that comes from Montana Law 20-20-105, subsection 5, that basically says that during a legislative year, the board does not have to set a levy amount for the May election. They can decide at a later date. And the reason is specifically the legislature hasn't made up its mind. They're still in the process. And this year, more than any, I think it's could be a very crazy legislative session due to the politics, especially in the Senate. So my recommendation, back to Mr. Bronson's question, would be that we amend the motion to say that we will not run a levy election on the May 6th ballot.
Well, Madam Chair, I then move to amend the motion to state that it is the recommendation of the Budget Committee to forego running a levy with the annual trustee election on May 6th.
Second.
All right, we have a amendment on the floor. Is there any comments on the amendment? All right, we'll initially vote on the amendment then. All those in favor of amending the initial um, recommendation to include language that this would apply simply for the upcoming May election. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, and now back to kind of the original motion then. Is there any additional comments from my fellow trustees? I think it's well worth noting that there's schools across our state that are requesting levies this year, and we certainly have more expenses than revenue. Don't know exactly how much, as you said, with all of those different factors, but we are in this position where we can not ask this of our taxpayers because of the fiscal responsible approach that, in particular, Mr. Patrick leads our district in. I'd open it up to our community. If you have any comments, please come to the microphone, Mr. Cubbage.
Chairman Johnson, members of the board, Superintendent Hoyer, and members of the community. My name's Tom Cubbage. I'm currently serving as the president of the Great Falls Education Association. I've taught in Great Falls at CMR High School for 30 years, and I'm the parent of 2 graduates of Great Falls Public Schools. The education my children received was excellent, but even in the 9 years between the graduation of my daughter and my son, our family has experienced considerable program cuts and a departure of many teaching staff. Since my youngest graduated, this trend of loss of programs and teaching staff has continued. This spring, we were told that the Great Falls Public Schools is looking at a potential deficit of $2.5 million, and I participated in meetings with stakeholders, including administrators, parents, community members, and fellow teachers to identify areas of efficiencies and potential cuts. It was a long 3 days of meetings and important work, but very difficult discussions about what could be cut or modified if the financial potential was in fact for reductions. Great Falls has fallen to the bottom of the AA schools in beginning teacher salaries and below the middle and mid to late career teacher salaries. The turnover in teachers each year includes the expected retirements, but also many in their first 5 years and more in the range of 10 to 20 years, as well as for those leaving for other careers or other opportunities. Great Falls needs to retain mid and late career teachers, as well as those that are new to the district. This community supports education in schools. They show up in large numbers in school events, and local businesses support programs in our community. And recent survey data indicates that it's not just in their showing up, but their willingness to help pay for the quality school system Great Falls Public Schools continues to strive to be and has been a model for other school districts. The message has been clear that the need is now for additional funding in the form of a levy. Please consider letting our community make the decision to support Great Falls Public Schools and vote and bring a levy to the voters so they can make the decision if funding is adequate or for continued excellence in Great Falls Public Schools for future generations.
Thank you, Mr. Cubbage. Is there any additional comments from our community? All right, seeing none, I ask everyone to we'll have a vote whether to not request a levy for the May 2025 election. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, so motion passes unanimously. We do have the ability to see how things play out and see what a later election might look like. All right, next on the agenda, we have the superintendent evaluation process. Trustee Thompson, Trustee Amy, Trustee Thompson, can you please lead us in this discussion?
Yes, thank you. So what we have in front of us is the superintendent evaluation tool and the timeline that we'll be using this spring, if everyone agrees. This is the same evaluation tool that we used in 2022-23 school year for Superintendent Moore. And then if you'll recall last year, since it was his last year, we didn't do an evaluation. And then if you'll also recall this fall, we decided that we would delay it till the spring because there wasn't enough months for us to really properly evaluate Superintendent Hoyer. So today we're bringing this forward to approve the process and the instrument. And then I really will encourage the public to input on Superintendent Hoyer's how she's been doing within the district, and that is going to be up on the survey will be up on our website by March 28th. And I wanted to also point out that in the tool that everyone has, there's a section that only the board will get. So the relationship with the board piece will only go to the board. That won't be a part of the public evaluation. And then, so the 23rd, the written comments will be due to me. And make sure that for the members of the public that you include your name and your address, or else they won't be able to be part of the summary that we put together. And then on 28th, I will reply or give everyone on the board and anyone that comes to the meeting a summary of the submitted written comments from the public. And then on May 1st, assessments are due to me for the board for Superintendent Hoyer. Then on May 12th, we will come together to evaluate Superintendent Hoyer, and then we will take formal action on the superintendent's performance in a public meeting following that. And then on May 16th, we'll compile a summary of the evaluation to be made public to be made available to the public. And I wanted to thank Sherry for helping us to dust off this evaluation tool, and Brian as well. And also Charlene Hoyer, who has been working with us to put the surveys together. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, this does require a motion. I'll open the floor.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Tarosky.
I move that we adopt the superintendent evaluation process and instrument as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the superintendent evaluation process and instrument as presented. Is there any comments or questions from my fellow trustees, from our community? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, up next, there was no changes made to the agenda, so we'll move on to reports, discussions, and policies, and start with the presentation about the Restart program. Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, Vice Chair Skornagowski, Superintendent Hoyer. This is a great opportunity for me to invite Mr. Reeves up to the lectern so he can give you an update as to where our two-year pilot program's at for Restart. A huge kudos goes to Corey for the work that he's undertaken this year as we've launched this pilot. When we really think about this program, this is an innovative way for us to meet a need of select group of students in our community that really does give them a second chance at education and a second chance at reintegration into a variety of our schools across the district. So, Mr. Reeves, you're up.
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the community. I'm super excited to tell you guys about this program. It is my passion. Just a little backstory. If you didn't know, I was a police officer for 25 years here in Great Falls. 10 of those 25 years I spent as a school resource officer at Great Falls High, working with Sherry and Mrs. Hoyer. And it was just the best 10 years of my life. I absolutely loved it. It's a totally different mentality of policing when you're in the schools, but it's where I truly grew my passion and love for working with young people. So when I saw this position available, I thought, man, how else can I contribute to the community? And I knew that was my passion and it was a great opportunity. So I applied. Fortunately, I was selected. And then Lance said, build this program. Let's make it happen. And I went, oh boy, what did I get into just now? So I spent the next several months. I think it's almost been a year that I've worked for you guys. I want to say April-ish. I was hired, brought on, spent the next several months creating the Restart program, doing what is it going to look like? So a little backstory. I don't know who's controlled the slides. Oh, Sherry, that's cool. Thank you. So as Mr. Boyd said, this is certainly created for student success. My students are very unique. Most of them, all of them, for whatever reason, are not engaged in the traditional school setting. They're just not going to school. I have a couple that have gone through the threat assessment process. So for them to transition back to their traditional school setting, they have to work with me anywhere from 3 months to an entire semester. So really, every kiddo is set up for a different path to success. As you can see, all the kids are referred to me from Great Falls Public School administrators. I've had as young as a 6th grader in the program. My oldest was a 17-year-old who had never been in high school. And I think some of you guys met him. Ashton is his name, and he's now at the CCRC, and he's completed 3 of the 5 components on his high set. So he's almost got that wrapped up. So I'm really proud of him. Also, before I forget, I put a packet in front of you guys. There's just, because I know I don't have a lot of time, I could stand up here for 2 hours and tell you about the program, but there's a lot of information in here, kind of give you some data and stuff, what the programs are and stuff. So again, our primary ages are 14 to 15-year-olds. Usually we try and focus on that 8th, 9th, 10th grader, because as you guys know, after that, it can be tough to capture them back into the schools. So that's really who we try and capture. As I said, the program length depends on the student's needs, 3 months to an entire semester. I think Ashton was with me for an entire semester till he transferred to the CCRC. And what's cool about this, it was very confusing for me at first, but we didn't want the kiddos falling further behind when they're with me, because I have a degree, but I'm not an educator, or the education degree. So what's cool is they can earn 1 1/2 credits in the Restart program. Is it transitional? Transitional. See, I'm still learning all the lingo. One transitional credit, and then if they have a job, which most of my students have jobs, then they earn another 1/2 credit. So next slide. These are some of my kiddos. These are the things we work on every day in Restart. Life skills, and again, in the informational packet, it kind of articulates what we talk about. Life skills, savvy living, managing emotions, math skills, mindfulness, that's a big component. The three, what am I saying? The academics that they focus on is math, reading, and language. And then we occasionally play a game of Uno too. We count that as math time. So some of my community partners, as you guys all know, we are housed at the basement of the Alliance for Youth. It's an awesome place to house these kiddos. I was really nervous. Where was this going to take place? What I really like about it is a lot of my kids only get their meals with me at Alliance for Youth. So they get a breakfast there. We have lunch for them. We have laundry facilities because they need to wash their clothes and stuff at Alliance for Youth. So it's just an outstanding location to house us. Youth Court Services, they've partnered with me. They teach a lot of the life skills, savvy living. We work on resumes. We go to the library. We apply for jobs. We ride the Great Falls Transit. So most of my kids don't have transportation. They just don't. So they learn, they get free bus passes and they get to ride the transit. Excuse me. Alluvian Health, that's with a therapist by the name of Ken. Ken runs Managing Emotions, and that's a group therapy. I'm not involved in that. That is every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30. But the kids get to go in there and do a group session with Ken. Great Falls Transit, as I said, the public library, McDonald's, Domino's Pizza, Schulte's, they've all participated with giving me coupons. So when the kids have a great week or do something good or remarkable, I can reward them with a McDonald's card. Or Mr. Schulte lets us come there on a Friday and eat frozen yogurt for free. It's pretty remarkable. And then obviously the CCRC and Future Build. I was kind of disappointed. We had 2 of my Restart kids were signed up for the Future Build, but we had to have a minimum of 4 kiddos signed up, and we couldn't get the other 2, so they weren't able to participate. But next slide. So yeah, in your packets, we started obviously. We follow the school calendar. So when you guys are off, my kiddos are off. We started in August of 2024. 18 students have entered the program. Of those 18, 7 students are still currently enrolled. 7 have completed the restart, and by that, and it's more articulated on your packet. Some have transitioned back to CMR, Great Falls High, Paris, or to the CCRC. Three have dropped from the program after 2 months attending. We can't save them all, right? We do the best we can. But here's what's really cool, and you'll see her on your packet. One of the gals that dropped, Serenity, she re-engaged with us back in March and said, okay, I want to go to the CCRC. So I hooked her up, and now she's there at the CCRC getting her high set. Like I said, attendance was a big issue for my kiddos, but that is pretty impressive in my opinion. I know we're not at the 95% benchmark, but 88.12% class rate. These guys are they're rocking it. They show up every day. They usually arrive, we kick off at 9 in the morning. They usually arrive anywhere between 8 and 8:45, depending on when the transit drops them off. And then they head out. Some of the students are there till noon. Some leave at 11:34 because that's when the transit picks them back up. So next slide, if there is another slide. Yeah, so Ash was sick today, so she couldn't make it. But Bridger is one of my students, and so I would like him to come up and just tell you guys what he has thought about Restart so far, and if you guys have any questions.
Hi, I'm Bridger. I joined the Restart program on January 8th. I was pretty nervous about it at first because I didn't know how it was gonna go, but I'm still in, and it's gone amazing. I've progressed from what I was like when I first joined. I feel the resources that we have there are very useful. We do a lot of social like jobs, knowing how to do things in life. We learn a lot of things. We go out, be a social life, and just we work in groups a lot too, and uh, we the group therapy is very helpful, and usually everybody there is quite kind to each other because we're all there for a reason. We all have struggles and we understand each other. Um, and the field trips, they get us out. Say if some other kid just can't get out of their house, sometimes field trips help us go out into the world. And again, we'll go to the library every Wednesday and we'll do work there instead to kind of get used to the life. We'll learn about jobs. We'll also learn about life skills, and yeah, that's a lot of what we do. Again, the food, we get food very much, lots of ramen. But it is helpful. Say if you haven't eaten anything that morning, you just don't feel good, get some food, feel better, and it's just when I get there every day, I feel really nice because I get to see Corey, my friends, and it's a very nice program, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to go and join it.
Thank you, Bridger. Sure. So what I tell my kids all the time is my job is to get them comfortable doing uncomfortable things. My kiddos don't like to meditate. Well, a lot of people don't like to meditate. They don't like to journal. We do all those things. As Bridger mentioned, every Friday is a field trip day. So we go somewhere in the community because I want them to have community buy-in. So you name it, we've been to it in Great Falls. And one of the cool things that we just partnered with Alliance for Youth last week is Horizon Credit Union has helped sponsor a professional chef. So on every other Friday, a professional chef will come in, teach them cooking skills. And so the first one up this Friday is, or not, next Friday is pizza. So they're going to learn how to cook pizzas and eggs and omelets and just things like that. So it really is. I'll tell you what, this program isn't about me. It's about the kids and the community partners. I wouldn't be successful if I didn't have, well, support from the leadership team for sure. But the community partners are what really make this, because I think they can get tired of dealing with me 4 hours a day, every single day. So when I bring in like some of the youth corps probation officers and they're not wearing that probation hat, if you will, they're just Josh and Margot. Margot used to be a teacher here in the district. They just love hanging out with them. So what else can I tell you about Restart? That's a real fast overview. I will tell you that when I mentioned to the kids that I was going to do this presentation about Restart, I said, does anyone want to volunteer to talk in front of the board? And every one of them raised their hands. We all did.
Yeah, all right.
So I told Mr. Boyd and he said, you find me 2 people. But yeah, any questions about the Restart? Like I said, hopefully the information you guys have there will really dive into it a little more, but.
Yeah, Trustee Finicum.
Corey, I have a question for you, but Bridger, thank you very much. You did really awesome. That was cool. Good. No, you did well.
You
That's
did
awesome.
great.
That's cool. And so then, Corey, do you have another daytime job that you do, or another nighttime job that you do?
Well, yeah. So it is. I have a full plate without a doubt. So I obviously work for Great Falls Public School during the daytime. Usually get out of there around 3 o'clock, and then I do my mayor stuff in the afternoons and in the evenings. So I see my family.
Does that go clear to midnight?
Yeah, it does.
Well, thank you very much for what you do for Restart and for our community. Thank you.
Absolutely. People ask all the time, what do you like the most? And I'm like, hands down, Restart. Being mayor's okay, but I'll tell you what, seeing these guys come out of their shells and really progress, because some of them start in the program, some of them can be ornery or just fed up with the world, and to watch them just blossom and just come out of their shell. A prime example, Bridger, is just, it's so rewarding. So I appreciate you guys supporting this program. I don't understand all the funding mechanisms. I know it's a 2-year grant program, so we'll see what happens in the future. But I truly do believe every school district in our state should have a program like this because it's successful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, one more question here.
Not really a question, but I agree with you, Corey, when you say that it's about the kids and the community partners, but I just like to add that it does take a special person to make this succeed, and you're definitely the right one. I know when you were at Great Falls High, the connections that you made with the students, all of them, whether or not they were in trouble or not, was really special, and I love that our district has been able to utilize you in this way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Quick,
Appreciate it. Well done.
thank you, Richard. Corey, I have a quick question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to respect your guys' time. This is something because I think Mr. Boyd needs credit for it. Not only do we do reading, math, and language, but we also work out of this book. And it's Mr. Boyd can tell you more about it because he created this. And it's one of those things that's my understanding that was created a couple years ago. It went on the shelf, was collecting dust. So when I was brainstorming with him, what do we have? He's like, oh, I created this with, I think, Christy Stroop at Alliance for Youth a few years ago. But it's just a quick overview. It's taking charge of your life, expressing your real self, create a foundation of growth, learning life skills, developing personal goals and action plans. But it's an awesome, awesome program. And what's cool is it's not just me up there, reading to the kids. We take turn reading different paragraphs. And then there's exercises we have to do. And they all participate, which is awesome. So that's all. Sorry about that.
All right.
Thank you.
So, Bridger, is that you with the fish? That's a huge trout. I bet it was. Was that your first time ice fishing? Yeah? You going to go back? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Nice fish.
Wonderful. Thank you
Congratulations.
so much. Well done, Bridger. Well done. All right. Next up on our agenda, we have the first reading of new Family and Consumer Science and Business. Nope. Oh, yep. Sorry, I crossed that off already. My apologies. Next up on the agenda is the Great Falls Public Schools Foundation grants and High Z scholarships update. My apologies. Miss Becker.
Thank you, Vice Chair Skornagoski, School Board Trustees, Superintendent Hoyer, and community members. Before I start my presentation, you've seen this flyer before, but I'm going to pass this out because I reference it.
Will do. Thank you.
So all of you are familiar with the annual presentation that the foundation does in July. And usually we have board members here to present on all of the different facets of work that the foundation does. But Superintendent Hoyer offered the opportunity, which is something that I probably should have snagged on earlier, is as the good news gal from the foundation, take opportunities throughout the year to share some good news. And so that's why I'm here this evening. So we recently completed the review of large educator grants. And this is the result of a lot of effort that's gone on for the last 2 or 3 years. So I want to speak to the specifics of that. But before I move into that, I think it's important to kind of paint the scene. So the foundation has been offering grants for teachers in the school district since 2011. So it's been a really long time. Back in 2022, the program committee who oversees our grant program thought it would be about time to do a review after 10 plus years of our grant program, do a deep dive, review historically what's been happening, and possibly do some restructuring. So it all started in spring of 2022. A subcommittee was formed to take on that lift. In the summer of 2022, they went through and reviewed over 260 grant applications that had come through since 2011. That is a monumental task. It's not just looking at the names of the grants, but actually reviewing those applications. So we had a historical basis for this review. But we knew it was likely necessary to make some changes. And if we wanted to make those changes, the best way to accomplish that would be to look at the past, but also to give feedback from teachers in the present and learn what was needed at the schools based on education today. So a survey was conducted to collect that feedback from teachers, and we saw a remarkable response. We actually had over 640 survey responses from teachers in the school district. That type of feedback is just unheard of. And it was a huge part of this full evaluation, looking at all the aspects of the grant program to make sure it aligned with what the teachers needed. That survey was then culled through, and then a follow-up survey was sent to those who were willing to engage a little further with us to gather more feedback. As a result of all of that data, the subcommittee worked to develop a restructured grant program based on historical and feedback from current teachers. And that restructure is what you see in front of you. What we learned was a lot of the large grants that we were offering, for many teachers, that was inaccessible. Doing a grant for $3,000 or $10,000 can be very intimidating for teachers, but it doesn't mean that they don't have need, right? So one of the key elements that was incorporated in this restructure was adding a mini grant component that was at a lower threshold, so easier for teachers to dip their toe into the grant program. And also the categories that were determined were a result of the feedback that we got from the teachers. And also historically, some of the areas that we saw that we made really strong impact in. So mini grants were offered with that structure and done on a rolling basis. So instead of requiring teachers to only apply during a 2-month period and have those funds implemented the following school year, we wanted to offer something that was easy for them to access and more frequent, so it could make impact in their classrooms more quickly. So mini grants were broken into 3 different categories. Professional enhancement, we heard that loud and clear that they wanted to continue to grow their skill set so they could impact their students in a powerful way. Classroom enrichment was another area, as well as field trip and expert-led learning. So the mini grants were the first component of it, and it was the first opportunity, first area that we were able to roll out and affect some change. Large grants, we also got feedback in that area, and that was broken into 2 different categories: learning enhancement and community collaboration. And it looks somewhat similar to the past large grant structure, except it gives more guidance and different components or areas to help guide their thinking. Because we knew, based on their feedback and historical data, that there were areas that really were able to demonstrate innovation, which is what we want to see at the foundation. We want to be able to enhance education. We don't want to supplant the public's responsibility for education. We want to step above and beyond that. So we knew when we rolled out the program in August of 2023 that it was going to take some time for teachers to understand this. And we anticipated that, and we figured it would be a couple years before people understood that shift and were able to engage in it with the foundation. We actually saw mini grants take off straight away. So starting in August of 2023, so this was the last school year, the previous school year, from August 2023 to July of 2024, we were able to fund 55 mini grants from all over the district, totaling over $32,000. So that was very exciting for us to see that type of response for something that was not available to them prior to this restructure. This year, we're seeing the same type of trajectory, but I would say we're seeing it even more. So through January of 2025, so August 2024 through January of 2025, we have funded 66 mini grants. So again, that's only partially through the year, and that has totaled $44,000. So that's amazing news. I want you guys to relish in the fact that you have teachers who really care about making a difference for their students, and they're accessing resources that allow them to do that. So I think that's some of the takeaway that we've seen, and we saw that really quickly. The larger grants, that took a little bit longer. So last year, that was implemented with the different categories. We saw in the spring review last year that 3 community collaboration grants for up to $10,000 were awarded, and 13 learning enhancement grants up to $5,000 were awarded, which is good. That's at around $61,000. What I'm super excited to say is that we did not have to wait several years to see that traction and momentum achieved. We just completed the review of large grants a couple weeks ago, and our board approved the recommendation of the program committee for this coming year. And we have 6 community collaboration grants, those largest ones, 20 learning enhancement grants, totaling $120,000. So that's amazing news. The teachers are understanding what can be accomplished with these grants. It also demonstrates to us that we heard what they were saying, right? And the restructure of this was based on data that they had provided. And for us to see this type of movement this quickly is remarkable. So that's the first piece of good news. I wanted to share a couple fun examples of grants, and this is hot off the press. So notifications just went out this afternoon. So some of the teachers may not have checked their email yet, but we have one community collaboration grant that's funded at Giant Springs called Bears Read and Roar. It's a program which seeks to strengthen family and community engagement while promoting literacy in K through third grade. They will be hosting quarterly parent engagement mornings with literacy training and interactive classroom activities to promote and foster literacy skills and encourage family involvement in that process. So we're really excited to see that unveiled in the coming school year. A learning enhancement grant that we're really excited about is actually going to be supporting art at the 6th grade level in 5 different schools. So it'll be Sacagawea, Sunnyside, Whittier, Loy, and Riverview, where students will learn slab building techniques. Don't ask me to elaborate because I'm still learning. But they will experiment with surface design and apply historical patterns to create unique works of art. And they will also explore the role of Greek pottery in storytelling, trade, and culture while developing their own artistic voice. So these are just 2 examples of the 26 grants that have been funded that can make a real impact. So we're excited to see those realized. I think I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the review committee's involvement in this. Marley Sunchild can speak to this because she's on this committee. It's a huge lift. Each of these committee members probably spend about 12 to 15 hours completing the individual reviews for these grants, and then a collective meeting for 3.5 hours, trying to debate which ones should be funded and to build that case. So we're so thankful that we have committee members who are committed to seeing this impact realized and are willing to put in the time for that. In total, 120 to 150 hours could be accounted for based on all of these committee members in just a 6-week period of time. Also, I have to give a big shout out to Michelle Noriega. So she's our administrative assistant and she oversees our grant program. And this is the first round that she's gone through, and that's a huge lift. But she did a fantastic job. So really thankful for her. She is a former principal and at an alternative high school, and she is over the moon to be able to do her part in contributing. So that's grants. I wanted to share with you also Heisey scholarships, but before I do, are there any questions around grants? Cool. So one of the programs, another program that the foundation is really proud to be a partner on is the Heisey Teacher Scholarships. So the Heisey Foundation, as you likely know, funds $21,000 scholarships every year for our teachers to extend their academic learning to impact their students. So I wanted to share with you the recipients of the Heisey scholarships this year and the schools and the areas of teaching that they contribute to. This is a collection of endorsements, pursuit of master's degrees, other things in that academic arena that are relevant to their area of expertise. So we have Alyssa Burkett, CMR Science, Hannah Blanchard, CMR Math, Molly Christians, CMR English, Rebecca Cooper, Giant Springs first grade, Ashley Davidson, Loy Elementary 6th grade, Kendra Fulbright, Longfellow Elementary librarian, Megan Grady, North Middle School counselor, Talon Gray, North Middle School science teacher, Suzanne Halley, Lincoln Elementary, 2nd grade. Bridget Hopkins, East Middle School Student Services. Stevie McNamee, Meadowlark Elementary, 4th grade. Tesla McWormand, Longfellow Elementary Resource 2 teacher. Jennifer Moore, Valley View Elementary kindergarten teacher. Dawn O'Leary, Great Falls High English teacher. Nicole O'Leary, Loy Elementary 1st grade. Mary Proud, Giant Springs Elementary counselor. Melissa Roulier, Lewis and Clark Elementary 4th grade. Megan Stubbs, Great Falls High Business Ed. Brittany Euchre, Valley View Elementary librarian. And Kayla Underwood, Meadowlark Elementary 3rd grade. So this represents 11 different schools, 4 middle school and high schools, and the rest of them are elementary schools. So the cross section of the impact that this makes is significant. So I want to acknowledge the Heisey Foundation for their commitment to this. It's probably one of the longest standing partnerships that we've had at the district. And it is making a huge impact on the teaching staff here, but also on the students. So that's my good news for the day.
Wonderful. Any additional questions? Oh,
Not a question so much as a comment. Please do pass on our thanks to those people serving on your foundation board committee, the board people. They're all volunteers, and they do spend a lot of time. Marley, I was on that committee and read applications, and it does take a lot of time, but it's time well spent because each of those applications offer a point of inspiration that these people are so dedicated to what they're doing that they would take the time to apply with the hopes that they can fulfill their vision and dream through a grant. And I have spoken to not a few, but many teachers who have been recipients of many grants and how appreciative they are of the experience that they were able to have being funded by these grants and then bring back to our school district and their students. So what's going on here is so incredible and I think somewhat unique to public schools in Montana. So thank you to you for your work, and please do pass on our thanks to the members of your board.
I will. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good news, Ms. Becker. All right. And now, Ms. Mainwaring, if you could introduce the first reading of new family and consumer science and business KUDs.
Good evening, Vice Chair Skornagoski, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the board, members of the community. We have Becky Frisbee here with us. She's a secondary curriculum coordinator with a report about some updates to our curriculum standards.
Vice Chair Skornagoski, trustees, Superintendent Hoyer. Today I have for you the family and consumer science as well as business standards. We refer to them as KUDs or the know, understand, do's. You received the digital copy in your packet. Sherry says she'll make you a copy if you want. There's a hard set in my office. It's quite a stack. The ones we're looking at today in our first read are multimedia, entrepreneurship, intro to business, marketing, money management, middle school financial literacy, as well as tech essentials, a brand new class, and finance and career prep. You approved it last summer or early fall, one of the two. And we, when we met, the business decided to revisit it. It included some of the old tech skills that were in financial tech skills, and they've moved that to tech essentials. And so finance and career prep focuses on finance and career, not the soft skills or the software skills. Tech essentials will focus on everything from how to send an email to how to save a file, how to open a file. It's amazing how some of those skills have gotten lost in the last 5 to 10 years. So that was a course they brought back. And so it's a pre-course for students that feel they need those skills brushed up on. In family and consumer science, we have middle school 7th grade financial or FCS. In high school, we have culinary 1, 2, and then 3, which is also hospitality. Child development 1, 2, and 3, 4, as well as fashion design and construction. And that covers 3 levels in that one. The updates in these KUDs represent a couple things. Changes in technology since the last time they were written. These are both heavy tech areas, so they need to be updated, as well as the industry expectations in these 2 areas. I'll be back on April 14th for our second read, and until that time, this lovely stack will be in my office for anyone, whether it's you or anybody in our community that needs to see a hard copy. But they are also on our website. On the main page of the curriculum page, you'll find a link to all the different groups. This is also my first of 3 visits because we did do quite a few updates in career tech education fields. And I thought you probably didn't want all 39 tonight. So we're spacing it out a little. So 12 tonight, and we'll just gradually work our way up. Any questions for me tonight?
Any questions?
I do have a question. Now, clarification. Now, that stack that you just gave to Allie, you said that's available for
I've
us?
got them.
You've got it. So that's available for us to read in your office. But did you also imply that that is on the website as well?
Yes, it's
It
on
is.
yep, it's on the website. There's this similar stack in Sherry's office. There's one
Okay.
in my office, and then you all received. It's in your. Oh, not yet. Oh, okay, I lied. I'm sorry.
But it'll be coming our direction, right?
You'll get links tomorrow.
Fantastic.
I'll put a link in there that links to the pages that Becky.
Perfect. Thank you.
That way you can read it digitally. You don't have to print.
Copy. Let me know. I mean, there is a lot, but sometimes it's easier to read than trying to read through a computer. So if you want a hard copy, we'll be happy to make those.
All right, Trustee Thompson.
I've got a question. You were talking about industry expectations with technology. Is like Microsoft 360, is that a part of this?
For that tech essentials,
Right.
they're still focusing on the Microsoft. There will be some like Google skills, but that seems to be what students they use most of the time.
Right.
And but the Microsoft skills are what they're struggling with, and so that was why they created financial or tech essentials. Sorry, too many old names mixed with the new ones. That's why they created tech essentials, because students are so used to Google where you don't have to hit save. Your work is just automatically saved. You can share it. But if you go into Microsoft, if you don't hit save, you're going to be really sad the next time you open it and realize that none of your work's there. And if you need to share it with somebody, you have to actually send a file or print it, whatever it needs to be done. So these were the skills they saw both in the middle school group as well as high school that needed some brushing up. So they created this course to provide that opportunity for students to get those skills.
Yeah, thank you. I just a week ago was telling Superintendent Hoyer that last month I spoke with a entrepreneur in town who had hired several recent grads, and he was surprised that they didn't even know how to attach an email and didn't know some simple Microsoft Word components. And here you are, 1 week later, telling us you're fixing it. So thank you.
We sure are trying.
If there's no other comments or questions, we look forward to voting on this on the 14th. Thanks so much, Ms. Frisbee.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for discussion, committee reports, and comments. I'll start with Trustee Thompson.
So I think the only thing that I want to say is to Tom Cubbage, thank you for your message tonight. And I just want you to know that I don't think anybody up here didn't listen and hear you for sure. And we'll be working on that for, in the future. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Trustee Finicum.
Amy, well said. Tom, I even wrote myself a note to say thank you very much for contributing. And what a great meeting. So many good things going on. It's just crazy fun. And it was great to have a packed house, 2 completely different sets of parents in today. That was great. Stephanie, thank you for your report. Budget Committee, thank you for all that you do for a whole year, the budget cycle. So thank you very much. Back to you, Kim.
All right, Trustee Sunchild.
Thank you, Tom. Of course, as always, you have their best interest at heart, those teachers. So we appreciate that. Stephanie, when she was talking, I just want to make sure everybody knows that there are teachers on that committee. I mean, she talked about it, but I just want to reiterate there are teachers on that committee who teach all day and then read these mini grants. And I cannot stress how hard it is to read those. And I can't imagine teaching all day and having all of that in your head and then having to come home and read that same kind of thing. So I mean that's it's a lot, and they're great, and we have a lot of meetings, and it's really a lot of work for them. The Restart program is fantastic, and Lance passed it along to Corey. Even if it's just 1 kid or 7 kids, it's something. For some reason, I seem to be like an attendance policy magnet to several people in the district, so I keep getting all of these questions about our attendance policy, and I'm not going to give my personal opinion on it at this point. But I am going to say that we do so much more for attendance than just setting a policy that you have to try to follow, because just because you have a policy doesn't mean it's going to be followed. And the Restart program is a prime example of reaching kids who are not going to school because they're in trouble or whatever. So now we're finding the reasons why they're not there and trying to get them back. And that's what we need to do. So that's my 2 cents on attendance.
All right. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you. Character strong, cooperation, fantastic. I just love those presentations. And it's all about us here, us 7, isn't it? Cooperation. We work together for the greater good of this district, and what a great team we have. But it's based on cooperation, and it's an ongoing lesson that we learn from these kids. It's fantastic. Thank you for the report on athletics. That was really valuable. Thanks for putting that together. Pass on our thanks to Mr. Handenberg too for those statistics. And Mr. Patrick, I think about 2% of our budget is spent on athletic programs. 2%. And yet here they're so responsible for these kids' self-esteem, health, keeping kids in school. It's just fantastic, these programs we offer in athletics. So I'm so proud of that. And to be reminded, thank you again for that report. Legislature's back in session. We need to be vigilant once again. So we get our reports from the Montana School Board Association and calls to action and think tank Thursday. All this remind us, all of us, to be vigilant in backing the cause of public school education. So fantastic. And I too, Mark, Paige, Mr. Bronson, Mr. Patrick, thank you so much for your work on the budget committee. It's a big responsibility. You all do it so well. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Trustee Tarosky.
Not too much. I'm pretty excited about the Restart program. I think that's going to be really good for our students in our community, and I appreciate all the community partners who are helping to contribute to that. And I really like that financial literacy is becoming such a focus of our district for our kids. I think that's very, very important. It's a really great life skill for them to have going forward when they leave us and are out in the real world. So I appreciate that on the district's part. That's everything.
Wonderful. And Trustee Bronson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3 quick things, and then I want to go back briefly and speak to our action tonight with respect to the Committee recommendation. First, the 3 quick things. Number one, I think we all appreciate the 3 legislators who did participate in our transmittal meeting, and I hope thank yous have gone out to Representatives Weber and Minor and Senator Trebus. I think we all appreciated very much their willingness to come and listen to the Q&A that evening. Second, thanks again to our administrative team for their wonderful presentation at the work session last week on student achievement. As some of them know, I have now inundated them with a whole bunch of questions in a 2-page memorandum, and I'll be happy to share, but I'm sure they will share all of their responses. But it was just a good exercise for me as well to think about all of the aspects of student achievement and just learn a little bit more so that we can all do our jobs as trustees better. Third, kind of on an interesting note, during the Russell auction events this weekend, I ran into one of the trustees from the Billings School District who was up here. We recognized each other because we were both participants in those original conversations almost a year and a half ago about the health insurance trust. But we had some time to talk. He wanted to know what was happening in Great Falls. I wanted to know what was happening in Billings. And Superintendent Hoyer, you can tell our facilitator for our community consensus building, she may have another job. After I told Zach about that, he said, Billings needs to do that too. And he remembers her from the participation and what she did for our health insurance trust meeting. So I think she's going to get a call from the Billings School District about coming aboard and helping them out. Last to the budget recommendations, I echo what my fellow trustees have said, Mr. Cubbage. I mean, we greatly appreciate your insights tonight, but also your participation in all of the different processes that have gone on. I won't say I speak for all of the trustees, but the message that I do want to give here, at least from my perspective, and a lot of it is informed from a long history of dealing with this conundrum about school financing. Some of you are aware when the first lawsuit was filed in the 1980s dealing with those issues, the law firm I was working at the time in Billings was involved in that case. And I was one of 3 attorneys that was involved in dealing with those particular issues. Even though our particular set of clients probably had the easiest part of that case to deal with, the entire lawsuit was very instructive in reminding all of us of the significant obligation the state of Montana, through our legislature, has to funding our education system. And right now, we are on the cusp of getting the legislature, along with the support of the governor, to make what I think are some major advancements in the funding formula and moving forward. And I really want to see that process completed before we start going back to our local taxpayers and asking them to pick up more of the share of education, because even though under the formula they are certainly in a position to be asked to do that, I think the state of Montana has to pick up more of the burden here. That has been the ongoing debate, quite frankly, since the 1970s, when our new Constitution was passed and the language was put in upon which we rely to demand that the state be involved in a significant role in funding. The other aspect of it, which is also up in the air, but again, I think that the legislature, along with the governor, will address it to some degree, is the whole issue of how our property tax system is structured in this state. We saw what happened a year and a half ago when, under the current system and the legislature's decision not to deal with certain necessary adjustments to, taxable valuation, what impact that had on people's minds and on their pocketbooks. And I, for one, am a little reluctant to go to that same group of taxpayers right now without knowing what changes our legislature is prepared to make in order that the property tax system in Montana is fair to all concerned and is going to operate in a manner that is more consistent with everybody's reasonable expectations of what they're paying for and what they get out of it. So when all those factors are combined, and I look at where this district is positioned in terms of its financial status, if we had to make cuts, we know that we can do some of them and probably do it in a less painful manner than some of our fellow AA districts have done. But if we can come out of this legislative session with guarantees of more state participation in funding, a somewhat reformed property tax system, and the prospect that another decennial study will give us more ammunition in 2027 to make even further improvements, I'm reluctant right now to ask the voters for any kind of a mill levy. But again, we have collectively here, by unanimous vote tonight, left open the door to doing that later in the year if for some reason all of these hopes and expectations that we have fall through. I continue to be impressed by our administration and how they have shepherded our resources. We as a board, I have paid close attention to that, and because of that, we have managed to put this district probably on the best foundation that we could put any AA district in. It's not saying it's perfect, it could be a lot better, but with the resources that we have, with our perspectives that we have, and the degree of cooperation that we've been willing to exercise, we're in a much better position. And that explains more of my perspective. And again, I don't pretend to speak for all of these individuals up here, but I know that they have looked at this in very similar ways. I know that our community partners recognize that we do have their back. We're just trying to find the best way to do it, considering all these bigger issues out there that the legislature has yet to resolve. So with that said, hopefully within the next 2 months, we will have better news and we will be moving forward into the next budget cycle with a decent budget to do great things for our young people. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I have one more crack at it?
Sure.
I apologize.
All right, Trustee Baker.
So, talking about the budget committee, but also the guy who climbs down into the weeds is so good at what he does. I just have to give Brian a thank you for Brian and his team for all that they do. As Trustee Bronson said, Great Falls Public Schools is in a wonderful position right now because of that guy. Let's give him a round of applause.
Here.
All right, so coming up March 27th is the deadline for trustee candidates. Thank you to the electric for helping remind our community about that deadline. I wanted to thank Stephanie. It's wonderful to see that you're working to continue improving the grant system and to just have it be really responsive to the need in our community. So that's really wonderful to see. A quick comment on the legislative transmittal meeting. One of my most hopeful takeaways from that meeting was that our local legislators are leaning on our local experts when it comes to their questions and their kind of thoughts about how they're going to vote. That hasn't always been the case. So there's been a lot of work done by our administration
and by our local education advocates to really build those relationships, so that that is the case this session. And it's really great to be at this point and be hopeful about positive things coming out of the legislature this year. A quick comment on Restart. I've been involved with discipline hearings now for 8 years, and so each time you have one of those hearings, it's you kind of walk out with a sense of hopelessness and heartbreak. So to see that we have an opportunity for those students who just cannot exist within the traditional school walls, at least in that moment, for them to have an opportunity to continue their education and become, parts of our community that we're proud of. It's really just a wonderful program and a really smart investment, both for our schools, but also for our community as a whole. The last thing I wanted to mention is that Trustee Tarosky and I have had the opportunity to hear from book companies that are bringing in a new math book and curriculum for our students. So keep your knees bent. We'll be seeing that at this level somewhere down the road. As you can see from our upcoming meetings, board policy will be meeting Tuesday, April 1st at 2 p.m. And our next regular meeting is April 14th. Happy spring, everybody. I close this meeting. Happy spring.